I'm moving forward every day with Jesus. I just let him lead the way every second, every minute, every hour of the day. I'm moving with Jesus every day. 24/7 with Jesus every day. 24/7. I'm moving with Jesus. I'm moving with Jesus every day.
Welcome to JC 24/7 as we continue our series on women of worth. Wow, we have been reaffirming or attempting to reaffirm the indispensable value of women by elucidating and enunciating some of those eternal qualities that all women will do well to emulate so that all of them that is, can become women of worth and treat themselves such with the hope that others will treat them likewise. So far, we have looked at these women, or looked at women in general, through the eyes of a single woman, a married woman, and married men. Today, we are looking at father and son relation, father and daughter relationship. And guess what? We have invited a father and his beautiful daughter on set. We're happy to have you, Damian, and of course, Sherene. Thank you for accompanying your father.
No.
Damien, you have two children, I understand. One boy, one girl. With all due respect to Enrique, this is not his day. This is Sherene's day, right? And so I want to ask you very candidly, how has it been raising a girl child as opposed to raising a boy child?
Uh,
And Enrique is listening very intently.
there's a difference in relation to a girl and a boy where where the girl is concerned, I think you can't take much for granted.
Right.
With the boys, you can leave a boy, but a girl, I think it needs some polishing, and it's a learning experience for me.
Right.
Up until this age, I think I still learn. Because I don't think you can ever have it right. And there's no script, there's no book that can give you the remedy
Tell me
how
about it.
how to raise up a girl.
You have to pay attention to much detail, eh?
A lot of details.
So, with the privilege of having two children and two different sexes in that, is it more challenging raising a girl child as it is raising a boy child?
It is because
daughter is here.
yeah, well, it wasn't a challenge up until 8 years, 9 years old.
Okay.
But then after that, you're looking at 13, 14, and you see attitudes,
Wow.
and you see certain behaviors that would sometimes would get to your nerves. So you have to learn, and there are times when I'm sure that I've displayed the best behavior, but
Right.
but it is it and then also there's also the challenge of society.
Right.
Because you want to make sure that you have a model daughter.
Right.
which is for the most part sometimes impossible.
Right.
Because you would think about what others would say, well, in terms of look what his daughter doing. So you want to make sure that so you want to make sure that you do the right thing in terms of nurturing her in such a way so that she would to be pleased as a father.
This might be a strange question, but has raising a girl child in any way enhanced your manhood?
Oh, definitely. It has. It has,
okay.
because you have to display a certain behavior as a man that you would want to present something
Right.
that should she or when she decides to choose someone that she wants to spend the rest of her life with, you must be able to be that type of person that she would want to choose. It has it has not always been that way with me in terms of being a father, but as time grew along, passed by, I understood exactly what fatherhood was. I never always had it. I think I still don't, but I have a better idea now in terms of what fatherhood really is.
Okay. Now I'm going to ask Sharon this question a little while later. But let me ask you first, what have you brought to the table? If you have to affirm your fatherhood, what have you brought to the table? As opposed to what maybe mother could have brought. What has Damien brought to Sherene's life?
I had a concept, a thinking, like most fathers do, like all fathers would do, that you would provide all the material things all the nice things so the friends could talk about, Sherene and Enrique have nice iPads and they drive a nice vehicle and all of those things. But only up until recently, which is just a couple of years back, that I understood that the God factor was important in the life of my two children. Where I would have practically have to nurture myself or be nurtured into becoming a father, because the human efforts could never be enough as a father in terms of a role model for your children. I had to go to seminars. I had to go to counseling. And I would have been there, and I understand now what is God's stand for me as a father. And when I look back, I would have seen years of failing. But I understand now that when God is part of the equation in terms of raising your children, it makes the effort of being a father even much easier.
What you just said, because even as a man, you saw the need for counseling. Many men would shudder even at the thought of the word counseling, far less to go for counseling. But though you are a man, you were not too mannish to go for counseling. That's interesting.
Well, I would go back to an experience that I had only last year, that I went to a father-son retreat. They didn't have father-daughter, for what reasons, I hope. But we went to that retreat, and there was this experience that I had to go around a campfire with my son, and I had to tell him what I think about him. How often do you hear about these things happening? And I was lost for words. So it's the fact is that you from a human standpoint, you could never get it right. God has to be part of the equation in terms of being that father that you should be. And it's a growing experience.
God demonstrated that quality, and when Christ was baptized, he said, "This is my beloved son, in whom I'm well pleased." So he was not afraid to affirm his own son in front of everybody else.
Yeah.
Sherene, now it's time for you to take the witness stand. Without being politically correct, how important has your father been in your childhood? Now, I know he's on set, but you tell us the truth, please.
Honestly speaking, he has been a very important role in my life, in the sense that he was always nurturing, he was always loving, he was always there. I mean, yes, mommy is there. Yes, my mother is alive and she's very much part of my life. But having daddy there from childhood, it meant so much to me because, growing up and going to school, I would have heard, my friends saying they never grew up with a father. They never had that figure. But for me, I am grateful because I don't know, something about the daddy's touch is different.
Wow. And as an adult, does he still play a significant part in your life? Because it's time for you to move on.
Yes, I agree with you, Pastor. It's time to move on, but my daddy will always be my daddy, no matter what. No.
It's time to move on, child.
Yes, I understand all of that, but daddy will always be daddy. Wow. And, I will always appreciate him being my father. Because I will always look up to him for daddy's advice.
Okay. Does he still advise you even now?
Yes, he does.
Wow.
And I take his advice to heart.
Wow.
Sometimes I may not always listen to it, but in the back of my mind, it's always there.
Wow. Choices, decisions, lifestyle. How has your father shaped your life regarding these very critical choices that you may have to make in life and decisions?
As I said, he's always there. His advice, his words of encouragement, everything is there. And the fact that I'm at an age now where, I would be looking to choose someone in my life to settle down and start a family with, the person that he was back then is, that is what I would look for in an individual.
There's nobody right now, is there?
Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. I don't know.
Okay, but I'm sure in your choosing of that individual, is it that I'm sure that you would not want to choose somebody to satisfy your father's wishes.
No, only. It's not only to satisfy daddy's wishes, but I know what is expected of a person.
Right.
And I want to choose somebody. Yes, they may have qualities like daddy, but I want to choose somebody based on what I know is right.
Okay, beautiful. When you think of the word daddy, D-A-D-D-Y, what comes to mind immediately? And I'm not just speaking in reference to your father, but I'm sure you can't answer without reference to that. But generally speaking, what does the word father mean to you?
A person who is loving and nurturing. Yes, there's that love and that mother would bring, but something about the daddy's love and the daddy's advice and the daddy's touch that no mother can bring to the table.
Speaking of no mother can bring to the table, what has your father brought to your table that mommy, with all due respect, and she's looking at you right now, and I'm sure she's going to take it out to you when they get back home. But what has daddy brought that mommy, with all her efforts, with all her intent and desires and passion, would not have been able to do?
I mean, mommy is a wonderful person. I love my mother to death. But I don't know, it's like making decisions. You talk to mommy about something and she may tell you one thing, but she and daddy has the same point. But just, hearing that's the exact point that mommy gave you, hearing it from daddy, it's, I don't know, something about daddy's perspective on things that makes you look at things in a different way.
So she has no weight at all in the house.
Of course she does when it comes to certain things. But I mean, just daddy's perspective.
Right.
Because I mean, he would be experienced in life and he would, he's exposed to guys and all of these things. So his perspective on certain situations I would take more than I would take mommy's
This may seem
perspective.
a bit strange, but does his voice have anything to do with it? The tone of his voice and the fact that he's a man speaking, does that?
Probably it does, but I have never really seen my father angry and, so to speak, well, raise his voice at us as my brother and I. But, there's something about him.
Right.
When he speaks, okay, the man of the house is speaking, so we better listen.
Beautiful. And have you been able to demonstrate to your children that, have you had the opportunity to say, well, I am the man of this house and you'll listen to me? Or is it that they listen to you without you having to do that?
I think it came. It just came.
Right.
It came naturally. As I told you before, I would not have always been that role model father. And being a father for me is as I told you, it's growing. It's a growing experience. Every day I think you learn something. Even as a matter of fact, I was dealing with a little issue with them this week that was new to me.
Right.
So every week, every day, as a matter of fact, you face. And that's why I mentioned before that I think, God has to be part of the equation for me as a father. He has to be.
I'm here with Damian and Sherene, father and daughter, as we look at women of worth. Don't worry, Damian is only here because he's representing the fathers, not because he's a woman of worth. But he has raised a woman of worth based on all the Lord has taught him and is still teaching him. Come right back after the break and you will hear much more of what the Lord is doing in Damian's life and by extension in the life of his daughter. We'll be right back.
Someday, life's journey will be o'er, and I will reach that distant shore. I'll sing while entering heaven's door. Jesus led me all the way. Jesus led me all the way. He led me step by step each day. I will tell the saints and angels as I lay my burdens down. Jesus led me all the way. If God should let me there review the would be proven clear and true. Jesus led me all the way. Jesus led me all the way. He led me step by step each day. I will tell the saints and angels as I lay my burdens down. Jesus led me all the way, and hitherto my Lord has led. Today He guides each step I tread, and soon in heaven 'twill be said, Jesus led me all the way. Jesus led me all the way. He led me step by step each day, and I will tell the saints and angels as I lay my burdens down. Jesus led me all the way. Jesus led me all the way. Jesus led me all the way.
I'm here with Damian and Sherene as we look at women of worth, this time in relation to father daughter relationships. Let's get to you, Sherene. We have heard this term bantered all over the place, sperm donor versus the father figure in the home. If you were to have met, or perhaps you have already met, sperm donors or persons who are have the ambition to become sperm donors, what advice would you give them now that you have experienced what the importance of father in the house? What would you want to say to sperm donors?
Don't just be sperm donors. Be a father that a girl would want. Be a role model that she would look up to. Growing up, I always had the privilege of having my father. And I would have seen, I may know friends that, may have a father in their life, but is not active. And I would say to those men, be the person that she would want to you know, have herself having a relationship with a guy like her father. Be a good person, be a good role model to that individual.
Damian, I'm sure you have met some of these sperm donors. Um, what advice would you, as a man, want to give to such men? And some of them might be listening right now, actually.
Pastor, it's very important to that in a home, not just being biological, but the presence of a father in a home is crucial in the upbringing of both boys and girls. Because I grew up 80% with my mother, probably 20% with my dad, and being a mother of 8, she would have had the challenge of bringing up children, and she did an excellent job. As a mother, I give her full credit. I always talk about my mother, how strong she was and what she taught us. But the fact is that father not being there always left a void. And I would have would have gone out to friends and would have experienced things because of the fact that sometimes maybe my father was not there and at that particular time, and so it's important to not just be the biological, that term that we like to use, you know what I mean? And then because of that, you see these terms, deadbeat fathers and all of these things coming up. Even in my workplace, I experience that sometimes. Mothers would come and they would complain, and well, you know, the father, I want to do this, and the father, you know, and men, I think it has, the time has come for men to stand and be father. You know what I mean? Not just that, be not just the sperm donor, but be father, and with authority, I am the father, and let society see that, listen, I'm father, I'm making a change.
Society is suffering right now as a result of these deadbeat fathers.
Um, Definitely it is, because when you look at okay, for instance, my son, if he behaves in a certain way, I would always would have an input. But if there's no father around, and boys would be boys, and they follow a trend of behavior, and there's no father there to nurture them. Sometimes mother do have the authority in the home. Father is there to guide these young minds. Remember, they are young, growing. And I've learned these things recently, as a matter of fact, you know, to understand how boys think and how girls would relate and all of these things, you know. So father has to be there to nurture them.
And of course, young guys could develop relationships with other guys who are not their fathers and become sons to these guys. But some of these guys may be poor role models. And as a result, you find that they're developing all kinds of habits and they get into nefarious lifestyles and things they develop as a result of the absentee father. So you are saying that you are reaffirming the need for fathers or for persons who father their children, who donated their sperm, to really play an active role.
Their presence in the home is crucial.
It's crucial.
Their presence.
But what if some of these fathers, some of them might be listening right now, see the error of their ways, and they want to play an active part in their family, albeit maybe after 20 plus years? Do you think it's a little too late for them to come down?
No, it's never too late. Just 25 years of whatever you would have, the life that you would have lived. One day of happiness in the life of a child, of father being there, would make a difference. You have a full room of darkness, and you just put on one match, and it brings light into the room. That is what that's what I would compare it to, in the sense of a father. So I don't think it's ever too late for a father to have an input in the life of a child. Because the joy and the happiness that comes. I mean, I know that feeling of your father coming up, and you know, he may not have been there for a few days, and you're excited because, you know, daddy come today. You know what I mean? So you know, it's never too late for a father to have an input, or how should you say, make a change in the life of a child.
Yeah, but they talk about after 20 years. The child might be a bit skeptical to meet his father. And he might be skeptical, thinking that the child may not want to meet me, so I might as well continue as I was, as I'm going. Why should I make an effort to come, and I already think that I'm not going to be accepted?
And rightly so. I mean, somebody might say, well, the child right for behaving like that, you know, but at the end of the day, you are father. There's nothing that would disqualify you from being father, because you are father. So regardless of whatever behaviors that you have to face the consequences of your actions, but still move forward in the sense of being of forcing your way basically back into that home, and getting that child to remember, confidence was broken, and you're not going to get it overnight. So if it's a process that you need to take once a week or whatever, to just get back into the life of a child, and there's nothing that can pay for the joy of that child experiencing father.
So it may be late, but not too late.
Never too late.
Never too late. But what about the mother? She may not want father to come back home, and she may have said all kinds of evil against him, maybe rightfully so. And she may be thinking that if he comes back, he, with his empty promises, might hurt my child more. So she puts up every barrier against his return. Should she do that? And what advice would you give her?
I wouldn't blame her. I wouldn't blame her, because at the end of the day, that mother would have the best interest of the child, what she thinks is the best interest of the child. But I believe that fathers now should be given a chance.
Okay.
Give him a chance.
Right.
You can supervise
Right.
the encounter,
Right.
but give him a chance. And let him feel in himself the joy. Maybe you would have lost that. Maybe you have forgotten what the joy of seeing your child play and
Right.
and playing, be spending time.
Right.
Just 10 minutes or whatever. Give him a chance.
Beautiful.
Because I think that his mistakes, because mothers makes mistakes too.
That's right.
And they are not, nobody didn't hold them to that. But you are still there, and you still active, you perform the active role of a mother, because the father would have made a mistake. I think that give him some chance, give him a chance.
Let's bring Sherene back into the equation, because this is all about you, actually, and you're representing women. How would you advise women in their association with other men, seeing that you have gotten such profound advice from your father, and it has helped you, has enabled you to make wise choices? But there are some girls who are not as fortunate as you are, and they are associating with all kinds of guys. And we are told that sometimes the choice of guys for a woman can work out to her own detriment. What sort of advice would you want to start giving to women your age, in particular, in their choice and association with men?
I mean, Pastor, I would tell any girl that never had a father figure, that role model to look up to while growing up, look within yourself. And being a Christian young lady, I would tell any young woman now to search after a guy that is searching after God. Not just a guy that would say, I love God, but more so a guy that would say, I have a relationship with God. And because God ordained my steps,
Right.
there are certain things that I would and would not do as a man.
Beautiful.
And that's what a woman should look for. A young woman should look for in choosing the right person to be with.
Why is God so important to you, and why do you think God should be important to every other woman?
He is our creator, and I believe that he wants what's best for us, and he wants us to bask in eternal salvation,
Right.
which is above everything else that I mean, yes, he said while we're here, we have to do whatever we can to,
Sure.
keep us active, but always remember God in the equation. And I want to thank my father for leading me to Christ, because it was because of him that I have a relationship with God now.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yes.
And of course, there are some women who have been deprived of father and deprived of that male figure to guide them. But you are still saying, even in the midst of that deprivation, you can still make wise choices.
Yes.
And you can make it for God.
Yes.
Are you happy that your father has been a critical and crucial part of your life?
Yes, I am, and I will always be happy for my father being in my life.
Why?
Because he has helped me to make so many decisions. I may not have always obeyed his advice when it was given at that point in time,
That's
but
confession now, right?
but in the back of my mind, his words of advice is always there. So sometimes when I might think about doing something as I get older, I would go back to daddy's advice.
Right.
And that would help me to make wiser decisions.
Damian, are you happy to be a father of this child, this young girl here?
Oh, I'm happy to be a father of two. I have to be careful, and I'm happy to have a daughter, but I'm happy also to have a son, because at the age of 17 and 16, you find jealousy still stepping in.
Wow.
So I love my daughter and I love my son.
Beautiful, beautiful. I want to thank the both of you for taking the time to be with us, to share excerpts of your own experience, to be vulnerable, as it were, so that other men can find Jesus and help you and other women to become women of worth.
Thank you, Pastor.
You're welcome.
God set the example. He is our creator and sustainer. Though he created the world, the Bible does say in Hebrews, he upholds all things by the word of his power. What does that mean? Well, as our father, he didn't only sow the seed, but he sustained the seed that he sowed. So any of you guys who are willing to emulate God, when you go out to sow a seed, just make sure that you are around for the harvest when it comes. Thank you for taking the time to be with us. And we look forward for all of you fathers to make it to the kingdom of God, even as you make your daughters women of worth. Get them to meet JC 24/7. See you next time.
Thank you for viewing JC 24/7. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and remember to inspire your living as you prepare for heaven. You can get it all on JC 24/7.